Hey everyone, it's 2:01, so we're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Jilly Allison speaking, the Director of Community for the Blue State Tools. I've been emailing you, and please don't be a stranger after this. Please follow up with any questions that you have. We're very excited to introduce our panelists and our webinar today. As promised, we're going to be focusing on how to keep your donors engaged during this year-end fundraising season and beyond. So this is something that we lose sleep over night after night and are really thinking about how to make the best program for our clients when it comes to keeping our donors happy and engaged and coming back. And so I'm very excited that Cheryl Conti from FISSION Strategy and Attentively will be co-presenting with us, as well as my colleague Dan Thane from Blue State Digital. So we'll be sharing what we're seeing both on social and email and our larger donor engagement programs. And obviously we'll be taking questions as we go. So what to expect from today's session? We're going to share some effective creative approaches to retaining and engaging donors. We're going to talk through and show some of our ROI positive engagement tools, which we're really big fan of here and are excited to share and get everyone doing the same. We're going to share some CRM analytics that help you understand your donors better, and also some social tools that will help you really understand what they're talking about on social and connect with them there. And then we'll also share some customization and targeting apparatuses and techniques that will help you make the right ask. So a few housekeeping notes before we dive in. First, this is being recorded, so I will be following up with the recording and some slides after, so you feel free to send them around and share with your colleagues. Please ask questions as we go. We have some section breaks in here that are built in for questions, so we'll be monitoring those. And yes, please feel free to follow up with me because we want to make sure that everyone is as successful as possible as we enter this year-end fundraising season. So with that, I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Dan.
Thank you, Jilly. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm a creative director at Blue State. I'm here to talk very, very briefly about me and give you some background on Blue State too. But my role is really to sit at the intersection between design, copy, and analytics. And the value that we think of having that position as a creative director is the ability to look both above and into the weeds. So it's a process of coming up with the smart ideas, the smart strategies, but then also working with a whole host of delivery people within the company and within Blue State to really bring those to life. There's a little bit of background on me. I'm sure you've noticed by now, but I'm British. I have been working with Blue State for the last 7 years, the last 5 of which have been in New York. And it's really my role in the company to help brands, advocacy groups and nonprofits bring to life campaigns. And I've had the privilege and the honor of, in this position, helping organizations, many of which are on this call and are similar to the people on this call, raise $80 million, give or take, and doing it the right way. So small gifts, 5, 10, 25 bucks at a go. So Blue State has an interesting founding story in that we came out of politics. Our staffers and our organizations are veterans of Dean, Obama, and a whole host of international presidentials too. And this background has given us both a unique insight and perspective on how we use data, but also really how to build out engagement strategies that are ROI driven, and allow us to really, really think about clients' problems from a different idea, understanding and perspective. So we built out a creative and technology agency that's really designed to put people first. And we do this across 3 verticals. Firstly, nonprofits, obviously, advocacy groups, and then big brands and organizations like Google and Ford. And what I think is really fascinating about all of the different organizations that you can see on this slide is that they're really trying to answer the same question, which is, how do you get people closer to the things they care about? So it's a very different challenge for someone like Ford to say Heifer International, who we're going to be talking about today. But it's a fascinating one. as I'm sure many people on this call know, many brands are built around the notion of mass advertising rather than people. Most nonprofits and many nonprofits are still structured around direct mail rather than digital. And advocacy groups are really built either for a single issue from scratch or for an election cycle that starts and finishes with a very finite date. What's also funny is that each of the different groups are jealous of the others. The brands want the Haitian village to raise money for. The nonprofit wants the budget and scope and scale that a brand can achieve. And both of those people are jealous of the advocacy group who have an election on November 4th. So it's fascinating to be able to take the skills and learnings and ideas from each of those different verticals and apply it to the answer of this question: how do you get people closer to the things they care about? So that's how we think, and that's how we structure our organization and our ideological perspective. But the end goal of all of that should be about relationships. It's relationships that are meaningful, not superficial, responsive, not formulaic, evolving, and not static. But I really think the key word there is meaningful, because we're looking for long-lasting relationships with your donors, with your supporters, and even the people that don't know you yet. And if you think about the relationships that you're in the community, it really takes work, it takes purpose, it takes evolution as their relationships change with you and your relationships change with them. So it's that point of view that we bring to clients and engagements, and we're really excited to show you some of the ideas that we've been able to take into market with Heifer and others. And with that, I shall hand it over to Cheryl.
Well, thanks, Dan. Hello, everybody. Really excited to be with you today. Sadly, I don't have a classy accent like Dan. However, you can see from this slide, I love to work really hard. I'm the CEO of FISSION Strategy, the co-founder of Attentively, and the co-founder of Yes We Code with Van Jones, which aims to represent the movement that is helping over 100,000 low opportunity youth to become high quality coders and technologists, because our jobs are awesome, right? More people should know about it. Next slide. Let me tell you a little bit about my day jobs. This is a random selection of our large client base at FISSION. FISSION is a digital agency that specializes in helping the world's leading nonprofits, foundations, and social enterprise to use the internet more effectively to create change around the world. We aim to help our clients, inspire and innovate for social good. We want to help our clients find the movement that's already out there on social media and blogs. Who are your advocates on your cause? What's important to them? How can you team with them to create that win? And that's our focus. We work together with our partners to engage successfully with the influencers of today and create new influencers that are supportive of their work for tomorrow. Out of our work at FISSION came Attentively. Attentively is a product that helps organizations to better engage their donors in 3 simple ways. First, by putting a face to a name, using social data to go from a simple email address like janesmith@gmail.com to a rich profile that shows that Jane Smith is a blogger, maybe an avid climate activist, and also a mom. Things that you might not know just by the fact that they open or click through on a petition. Second, we help you listen to what your donors are saying on social media to really understand which issues are resonating with them and why. Literally, you can see how they're talking about your work, even top hashtags. So now you know whether janesmith@gmail.com is really worried about the impact climate change will have on her kid's future, if there's some other motivation. And third, by enabling organizations to provide personalized multi-channel responses at scale. So when Jane talks about climate change on Twitter, retweets someone, for example, that gets tagged in your CRM in BSD so that she gets pushed to a Facebook ad, a tailored Facebook ad about the great work you're doing on that front. And she gets a tweet back asking her to share a link via DM to donate to your climate change. It just creates an ally rather than just a top-down approach with those top e-influencers. Attentively also has an integration with Blue State Digital that allows organizations to push and pull data from these systems. So for example, you could push a fundraising ask via BSD tools to your lapsed donors who may be more active on social these days than on email, and who have mentioned your organization on Twitter. As one of our first integration partners at Attentively, we've worked with quite a few BSD clients, such as American Rivers, 38 Degrees, a number of labor unions, and as we mentioned earlier, Heifer International. And I know Dan's going to share a BSD case study in a little bit from that shared client in the webinar. Let me just touch briefly on how we see engagement evolving in the US. It's really important to take a look at the big picture and understand how larger consumer trends affect donor expectations. And let's face it, we're all modern consumers here. A lot of you have smartphones, and we have high expectations about how we want to be contacted, when we're contacted, and the content we're contacted about. Your donors are no different than you. And the challenge facing nonprofits is that our expectations, our collective expectations as consumers, bleed into what donors are expecting of nonprofits. So we can draw parallels of customer behavior and donor retention by looking at a recent report from Adobe, which found that only 5% of companies plan to differentiate on price alone with their competitors. Instead, in the for-profit sector, they plan to focus on developing their customer experience so that it's easy, fun, and valuable. This shows that for a lot of companies, the price and even the actual product is just as important as the right experience for their customers, which the report further explains is rooted in personalization. There's a much greater demand for personalization among consumers and donors, so you want to know their playlist. So here's an example. Have you ever been shopping, say for food or clothes? Maybe you're in Whole Foods, and all of a sudden, you're looking at the kombucha, and all of a sudden a song comes on in the store that you pretty much hate. It's like a Tasteway song. You love it, but you also hate it. And you're like, this is annoying, but hey, wait a second, the song isn't random. They're playing this song over the Whole Foods speakers because they think that that's the type of person I am. Wow, they totally don't get me. I'm clearly an orange here in this store in the kombucha aisle, and that song is for an apple. And come to think of it, maybe I shouldn't shop here if this is where apples shop. Right? People want to shop or donate to places that get them, that understand their interests and their values. They want to know that you'll never play, X, that weird Tasteway, Taylor Swift song on the radio, but will engage them with the types of songs or the types of ideas, the types of memes that you as an orange love. So when we talk about personalization in the context of fundraising, it's about knowing your donors better. So you can send relevant content when it's top of mind. Modern personalization utilizes big data by combining social media insights, social listening, and information you already have in your BSD CRM so that you're able to segment and send the right messages on the right channels at the right time. Specifically, we're talking about the ability to take people from your CRM, like BSD, and group donors based on key social mentions, knowledge of which networks they're using. Are they more on Facebook or Twitter? Are they influencers? Do they have a high clout score, etc.? The goal here is to send messages based on the interests of your donors in real time or as part of your scheduled emails, just to use that network effect and take your messages even further. Modern engagement is interactive. People want to interact anywhere at any time and try new things. There's disparate kinds of information, from animal quizzes to data on activity, and in ways that create value for them. And the key to an interactive experience whether it's fun or educational or awareness building or fundraising, is that it's easy. And finally, modern engagement demands real time. The way in which we, as consumers, like to engage is on demand, essentially when we're in the mood. We also generally like experiences to be fast and easy, and increasingly mobile. What this means for donor engagement is the shift to utilizing social data to send personalized content when it's top of mind, and not in next month's newsletter, right? You want to see what hashtags your members are starting to use and ride that wave to get into their mind stream. So I'm going to hand it over to Dan to talk more about effective creative approaches to retaining and engaging your donors.
Thank you, Cheryl. I think the thing that really stood out to me in your section was when you said that the value of making a customer experience easy, fun, and valuable is being proven by clever scientists who are much cleverer than me to be of extraordinary value. And that's really the approach that we've taken with Heifer. We've led with engagement. We've tried to open up the brand to include people, to have as many brand positive interactions that their customers, their potential customers can have. So we're going to take you through some creative examples of the way we've been able to do that. But first, just some background. We've been working with Heifer since 2013, primarily on the email side, but we help with a bunch of other things. We build lots of engagement tools that are really designed in three ways. Firstly, again, to have that positive brand experience that I said. Secondly, to capture data. So we can continue to have new conversations with our acquisition audience. And thirdly, to get people into our shopping funnels in unique and different ways. It's going really, really well. They're amazing clients, they're amazing people, it's amazing work. And thankfully, the results have been great too. So we're able to bring in more people and raise more money and sponsor and encourage more engagement than they've seen before. So it's really exciting. But the first lesson I wanted, or the first thought even, I wanted to share with you is the importance of being different. In the past 10, 15 years, there's been an extraordinarily large explosion in the number of nonprofits that are out there in the world. The donor base has not increased in the same way, so there are more people fighting for the same number of donors. And one of the great things about working with nonprofits is that almost all of them have great and incredible stories. So we think as an agency, every nonprofit that's looking to grow really needs to understand what's unique about their organization, what stands out. How are you going to market your nonprofit in a way that makes you far, far more interesting than that of others? And so for Heifer, we find that when we talk about the animals who are really the agents of change for the organization and their work, and build programs and ideas around that, we get huge spikes in engagement, huge spikes in interest. So it really is, for us, all about the animal. And when we think about engagement in this sense, we don't see, inverted commas, our competitors as people like Oxfam, but rather it's engagement and competition around eyeballs. And people are interested in movies, they're interested in sports and brands. So we look at this through that lens, and we ask our questions, how can we first interact with people on their terms rather than ours? And how do we build those engagements to structure long-term relationships with organizations? So what you see here up on your screen, and hopefully it's moving in beautiful video, is a tool that we set up to try and match a Heifer supporter with their animal alter ego. It's a fun BuzzFeed style quiz, and I definitely have dinner with Beyonce. And the idea here is to make sure that there's that connection, emotional connection with an animal. We captured my email address at the top. But as you can see, we're giving people the option to share on Facebook, obviously, so hopefully they can promote this themselves, but also in the cases, the screen in front of you, land them within Heifer's donation products. So if we look at how we can flow traffic in at the top of the funnel, we're actually seeing really strong financial returns too, both in the short term, in this case for extra gifts, but in the long term too, because if we jump forward to the next slide, we are triggering a series of customized and personalized emails and communications that run after that initial interaction to pivot us. Again, so after we have that positive brand interaction, we can ask for more money. We can use our supporters to become advocates and to pull in new people. And by delivering automated targeted content like this, what's great is that it's a kind of a set it and forget it thing. We found a model that works, and you can quickly create an economic model in which you're buying or acquiring people at a cheaper rate than they're donating at the back end of this as well through paid media. So it's a really interesting and smart way to look at how you acquire new people who are interested in the brand and also get them to give too. Another example of this is a quiz that we recently started called Sheep or Goat. And this idea came from our designers always struggling to tell the difference between sheep or goats when they were looking for stock imagery for Heifer. And it's harder than you think it could be. But by building out a fun, interesting, cheeky at times experience, again, we're having really brand positive connections with our audience, doing it in a way that captures data, makes people happy, makes people smile, and ultimately gets people to give either in the short term or the long term. So again, that's just another example of how you can use non-traditional, non-profit thinking and creating to build experiences that are sort of similar to the stuff that brands are producing, which we think is really interesting. Another way that we did this was we frequently run questions to let people name some Heifer animals. Again, the product that we're selling is animals that go to the developing world to help those in need. So we want to make our audience part of that story in an interesting and in a credible way as we can. So we've found that the ability to name animals is something that our audience really loves. You can see on Facebook that this post got lots and lots of love. And we actually get really lovely messages in from the community too, especially church groups or schools who are taking in this opportunity to involve Heifer in their curriculum and in their lessons and planning. Again, in a way that by being social, by actually reaching out and communicating two ways with our audience, people respond really beautifully and really positively to the Heifer brand and their organization and their work too. So that's the fun side of it. Animals give us that creative space to go out and have a slightly different approach than other nonprofits can have. We'd encourage you to find out what your animal equivalent is. What's that unique thing about the organization where you can have an interesting, creative, non-traditional viewpoint on the world or experience for your donors. But ultimately, it's going to be about the work too. So it's not all fun, but the story of Heifer and the story of most nonprofits is people helping people. And it's important to bring it back to that too. People are giving, yes, because the animals are fun, but also because they know about the incredible work that Heifer are doing each and every day. So we frequently and regularly like to remind donors and show the value of their gifts. We let them know that we couldn't do our work without them. And we look to tell beautiful, simple, compelling stories with great imagery and sharp copy to let them know that they really matter.
So before we dive into the next section, you should see a Q&A icon at the top of your screen. So if there are any questions, feel free to throw them at us. And if not, we'll keep on forging ahead.
Great. Thank you, Julie. So this is really the theme and the thesis of what we're talking about today. And we've put a deliberately obvious answer up there. So how do we keep donors engaged? I mean, you give them what you want, right? So that's the very simple, easy answer. But in reality, there's no silver bullet. Every list, every community, every organization is going to have different needs and different demands. I think if you look at the industry and the space as a whole, it's probably going to be a mix of short and long form storytelling, interactions and asks. Transparency and accountability on an individual level and an individual person's gift is really the on vogue thing at the moment. But those are just guesses, right? What we do as an organization is scientifically, both through qual and quant work, figure out with academic level rigor, what are those unique things that your community responds to? How can we set up tests and experiments to measure response rates? And once we have those nuggets of gold, how do we build those into a singular, compelling, and beautiful program? Just for background on Heifer, for example, through November and December of last end of year session, we had 111 different tests and hypotheses that we proved and disproved in market through those months. So we were able to get a huge amount of audience insights and audience learnings that have really helped us catapult the program forward. So for a couple of thoughts and ideas about how to go about this it's first to really make testing the plan. As much as I like to say that British people who work in advertising and marketing know all the solutions, we don't, sadly. But what we do know how to do is to use opportunities when we speak to audience to get learnings, to be iterative, and to build on those too. Now, this isn't going to be a surprise to anybody on the call, but I found that a lot of the time when we are talking with nonprofits, the value that we can provide is that rigor behind testing and working out what works and what doesn't. We do this through a wave approach. So we come up with an idea that we wish to prove or disprove, and then through market creative across email search, SEM, paid, and social, we can really learn if approach A or approach B is right. We'll then take that learning and move to our next question. What I think is different about what Blue State are doing right now is how we're using predictive analytics. I have a huge disdain for bad experiences for our clients and their constituents. So we are investing a huge amount of thought into what we call predictive analytics. We've developed a tool called the over-under, which based on live, historic, and modeled data accurately allows us to predict on a very small sample size the response rates for a communication, whether that be engagement-based or fundraising-based. In doing so, when we have a under, in inverted commas, that is an email or communication that's performing below a satisfactory metric for us, we'll make sure that that's not shared with audiences. So we make sure that bad work isn't given out to the world. And also, we have a series of business rules in place when we are over average. And this is the really interesting thing, and the thing that I'm sure is going to perk up the ears of fundraisers when I say this. But we found out that with the over side of this, in a blind A/B test throughout all of November, in the emails that triggered the over algorithm, we were able to increase the amount of dollars returned on those communications by 50%. We're able to do that because there are a series of rules that make sure that communication and that content is at the top of a person's email address for as long as possible and repeatedly. But again, it's a really interesting way of using predictive and retrospective analytics to really understand what your audience wants, how they want to be engaged, how they want to be talked to, and ultimately how you can help them do more of what you want you to, how you can help them do more of what you want them to do, and ultimately what they want to do too. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Cheryl.
Thanks, Dan. I really love that predictive analytics stuff that's new in BSD tools. That's, I think, that's hot stuff. And I also resonated when you talked about, giving people what they want and really responding to what audiences love. And, so just bridging over to my portion, it's really a critical part of any 21st century fundraising program or online engagement program to understand what people want, what they love, and give them love back, right? People want to feel now as if they're co-creating with an organization. And so in giving social love, you think, well, that sounds sexy and a little bit like a communicable disease. And in a way it is, because we're trying to make it viral. Social love shows that you care about your donors, that you're listening, and that the people who give you money are an extremely important part of your community. So our friends over at Classy provided this example of showing social love to donors. Some of you may have heard of WOTC, which allows people to, it's kind of like Kiva, but for healthcare. For people around the world. And so to celebrate their monthly donors, WOTC prepared a tweet for donors to use immediately after signing up for their recurring giving program. By calling out each member's individual number, the organization recognized the value of each new donor. Then WOTC retweeted these messages, showering their newest monthly donors with even more public recognition. Remember the low-hanging fruit, like following your donors, knowing which ones of them have the highest, say, clout scores, the highest number of connections or Twitter followers or what have you, and giving them an occasional favorite or retweet. Being recognized, being seen by an organization is a huge psychic boost for your donors. In fact, an Attentively client named Project Hope told us that, and I'm quoting, "We've never seen so many donors thank us for following them on Twitter." It was very exciting to see that level of donor engagement. So following or retweeting donors is a nice win for organizations because, number one, it's easy. Number two, these details play an important role in the ongoing conversation that you're having with your supporters. And three, you have the ability to provide a timely and authentic response. What's critical here is to know which of your donors are on Twitter, including how many follow you and how many you follow. If you don't know which of your donors are on Twitter, we can help. Just go to attentive.ly/report for a free custom report for up to 5,000 names on your email list that will show you the percentage of donors who are following you and that you follow, and their network reach, plus if they're influential, where they live, what their gender breakdown and age breakdown is, and more. The details are on the page, on the landing page, which again is attentive.ly/report. Finally, here's the deal with giving social love. Remember that point I made earlier about real time? Well, you need to reply the same day within a few hours. That's what the statistics are showing in terms of response rate. Your nonprofit can't afford to be slow in replying to supporters because people today, including you as a consumer, again, expect quick responses. And as consumers, they're probably getting quick responses from everyone else, like, say, Starbucks, right? So show them you're listening by responding to their posts within a few hours if possible, or at least within the first 24 hours. Even if you can't answer a question or respond right away, show them you value the time they took to reach out and let them know that you'll get back to them Tools that utilize social listening based on search term include Topsy, Google Alerts, and Attentively. So another tip is to thank people by social mention. If you knew everyone who gave a positive mention about your organization, especially if they were donors, you'd of course thank them, right? And the challenge for many nonprofits is that it's simply too cumbersome to track social mentions, especially if you have a small staff and by donor segments. So this slide shows an example of how social data can transform this potentially arduous and time-consuming task of, handpicking who you're responding to into an extremely manageable workflow so that you can really get to scale with your fundraising or social teams in responding to your donors. The goal here is to thank everyone who mentions your organization or that they just donated. In terms of execution, what you want to do is create an automated daily email for, say, your development director or your membership director that shows which donors mentioned your organization or a key term or a keyword on Twitter or Facebook. So we're about to get personal, not too personal, a little bit personal, but I wanted to stop for questions to see if anybody had any. No? If not, then let's crack on, as they would say in Britain. Let's talk about retaining donors through personalization and getting really personal, about to get right up in your grill. So broadly speaking, donor revenue often depends on how engaged an audience is with the programs they're funding. The more engaged they are, the higher donations per supporter, right? We all know this. Retaining donor engagement is in some ways more difficult than recruiting new donors because of the new higher expectations around personalization. Social listening gives organizations an unprecedented insight into their donors' lives and what they love, and an opportunity for richer engagement, far past surveys, focus groups, or feedback forms. Nonprofits now have the ability to analyze in real time what their donors think, feel, and care about given what they're sharing publicly on social, and then can react with predetermined triggers or send personalized marketing or engagement or fundraising messages. While no one has the perfect formula for donor retention, we know that engagement is the foundation of strong, lasting relationships and is required to maintain future donations in this new era. Social data and social listening give new opportunities for richer engagement through personalization of your communications. So if a donor says, hey, X problem needs fixing, on social, you can say, you know what, we couldn't agree more, and here's how your gift is solving this problem. Your donors are talking all the time, publicly. Are you listening? The key is to utilize social listening to see what your prospects and donors are saying on social media. But first, let's just backtrack a little. What is social listening? Cheryl, what are you talking about? Social listening is the process of monitoring digital media channels to understand the conversation around relevant topics, so you can better engage those people driving the conversation. Until recently, the challenge has been that you can listen to your followers or the world on social, but not in a scalable way or in a way that in which you can take systematic action that doesn't completely stress out your team. So for example, if you're a development or a membership director or a digital director, you need a way to efficiently listen to your donors and prospects and not deal with 5 different tools to research one donor. You need to see what your top donors are talking about, their propensity to give, and their history in a few clicks, not a few hours, particularly given we're in end of year fundraising season. You need a way to take this information, develop a strategy, send an ask via email, social, and direct mail, then track results in your donor database like BSD. We feel your pain, I'm with you, and we want to offer a few tips for using social listening in your fundraising. So first, you want to develop a list of search terms to monitor. Mentions of keywords in the conversations can be monitored in real time, so anytime a donor posts about a topic related to your work, they can be reminded of how they can show their support via a triggered email or an individual reply. And this tactic is useful for both retention and acquisition. Tools that allow keyword research range from free tools like Hootsuite or TweetDeck to directly using Twitter or Facebook. But of course, note you'd have to spend a lot of time manually finding donors with this approach, or to Attentively, which only listens to people in your CRM and connects to BSD. Secondly, you can look for personalization opportunities. Timing is everything now. If there's a swell in the conversations about a related topic, seize the moment and send out an alert or a donation appeal while that issue is top of mind. Oftentimes, you'll suspect an issue is trending with your base just based on what's happening in the news, but maybe you can't back it up with real data. The ability to report on trending hashtags, like the image in this slide, is like running a daily poll or a daily focus group on your donors. So you have the real-time pulse on your people. By listening to what a donor is saying on social media, your organization can understand which issues resonate with donors and why. And you can literally see how they're talking about your work. For example, are they sharing that hashtag that you're trying out for end of year fundraising or not? Here's another tip. You can send an email in service of a second gift based on a social mention. People don't want to be sold to until they're ready. We don't often think of asking for a donation as selling, but more like, well, just making a donation. The point here is to use technology to help you read your donor's digital body language, so you can make your ask at the right time with the right message. Consider using social data to send automated emails that are based on social mentions. In this way, you can nail that right message, right time, right person formula by sending content within hours of your supporter talking about one of your program areas. So for example, as soon as a member says, equal pay, right, or mentions the issue that they donated with, they can get a personalized email right away, automated, explaining how you're impacting that issue, and that asks for a second gift. So here's a nice example. One of our clients, American Friends Service Committee, used social listening for rapid response fundraising and engagement. AFSC noted a significant shift in focus on social media around the time of Ferguson, when that was happening. Using Attentively, they could see that terms like police and black men started trending, not just nationally, but literally among many of their supporters. In response, the communications team hosted a Google Hangout while the issue was top of mind to engage their supporters directly in the conversation. The result was a record high Google Hangout turnout for them to bring people together, and 74 donations within days. More importantly, they seized the opportunity right away to engage their supporters and their donors around solutions focused on discrimination. So you want to focus on both wealth and social insights to make the right ask. If you focus only on wealth, like just the last donation amount that they made, then you might miss opportunities to engage donors who are talking about your work or issues around your work on social media, and who may even be high clout influencers. On the flip side, if you only focus on social insights, you may miss the opportunity to make asks based on giving capacity, which is something that our partner at Wealth Engine can tell you more about. And we've actually done a webinar with them recently that was extremely popular. You can check it out on the Attentively website. But in other words, you don't look at your donors exclusively through the lens of dollars. If they're passionate about your cause but don't have the capacity of a large gift, but they do have 20,000 Twitter followers, the value of their influence on those who do have the capacity to give should not be underestimated. There's a value exchange with every donor if you know how to measure it. By considering both their value on social media and the value of their assets, you get a clear picture of who to focus your limited time on and how to personalize and expand your fundraising impact.
Awesome.
Dan?
Thank you, Cheryl. We have 2 questions in the audience, so I wanted to hop in here. First, I'll ask Dan. This is from Jeanette. Do you have thoughts about how effective Facebook ads are with donor engagement and fundraising?
I do, which is lucky. I like Facebook ads a lot. I think they're good. I don't think they're great. If I had to choose between SEM or Facebook ads, I would choose SEM each time. But it's a different type of audience. If people are looking for your brand terms or near your brand terms on search, you're likely to get people who are kind of like your base already. I think it's great for retargeting. I think it's good for acquisition into the fun type of games or data collection that I shared with you earlier. And what I'm really interested about Facebook is the ability to do lookalike modeling of your best donors to figure out really who isn't a supporter of yours yet or a donor of yours yet, but should be, and especially if they've got lots and lots of lovely money.
And we have one more question, Cheryl, for you. Do you have data on which age groups are more likely to participate in the type of social media conversations that you've highlighted, specifically asking about older individuals who are 50 or above?
This is a great question, and actually a frequently asked one. I think that there is a misconception in particularly the fundraising realm that, older donors, their donor base who may skew a little bit older aren't really using social media. And in fact, I recommend checking out Pew Internet, which has been really tracking the phenomenon of social across demographics in America. But essentially, if you look across every demographic in America, age, ethnic, rural, urban, ex-urban, 60 to 70% of all Americans are using Facebook, period. Everyone is on it, right? And particularly when you look at those who are age 55 and up, those remain the fastest growing segment of people who are using Facebook. So when we look at, and you can actually see if you do the free custom report, you can actually see, of your donor base, which one of those are, what social demographics, including age, are using which platforms. We almost always see a pretty broad spread of people anywhere from that, 18 to 25 to a large segment who are in that, 45 to 55 or 55 and up. So I think it's important, not to make assumptions about how your audience may be using social to communicate with their friends, their family, with their colleagues, but to actually look at the data and then, can create a strategy. And the data is out there.
Great. All right, back to Dan.
Thank you, Jilly. So I think it's been really interesting in the past couple of years how brands have become increasingly interested into applying many of the lessons that nonprofits have been using around CRM over the past years. And in this area, in this space, I think most nonprofits are way ahead in understanding the nature of a person, managing lists, growing lists, and all of that good stuff. I think really the key behind CRM is threefold. Firstly, it's a good stuff in, good stuff out, or garbage in, garbage out kind of setup. So you need to really have a clear understanding of what you want to be doing with your list in your community. So you collect all the information that you really need to provide the experience that you want at the end of that string. So you have the right communications going out. And I say that with a mild proviso that I'm sure everybody on this call knows that if you ask for too much information, you'll really get none. So you have to be able to understand what the smart data for you to collect is, and ultimately how to put that into market smartly. For Heifer, we've helped them think about many of these challenges, and we use the BSD tools as their digital CRM platform. And because we've been able to think about the data that we want to use in the output, we've structured our data collection in the input too, so we get the right things. So with this information, we can do a number of things. Firstly, within the tools and in many other platforms too, you can get a really, really specific and discrete segment of people around donation amounts, location, history, and all of that good stuff to quickly and easily figure out what messages should be going to which people. But with that, we don't want to be sending paragraph, link emails, paragraph, link emails, frankly, because they're a bit boring, but honestly, because they don't work as well as a much more personalized communication based around conditional content can give us. What we have on the screen here is BSD's personalization language called Twig. It's really, really powerful, in which we can pull in any data point from a person's relationship with the organization and then give different text and images based on that relationship that's sitting in the database. So instead of having to set up hundreds of different segments to get to that point, using conditional content, we can save a whole bunch of time and money. It'll also make your poor email writers' life much happier throughout end of year because they get to spend their time thinking about what's the great content that's going to move people and how do we leverage the relationship that that donor has with the organization, rather than having to clone a whole bunch of emails that will help lift the average response rate, but will do so in a painful and, some may say, slightly soul-crushing way. The other thing that's really important that I didn't mention in the previous slide is really the ability to send email en masse. I don't know if people on this call have the shared horror of going to press the send button on your emails on December 30th or 31st and being told that there's a wait or a queue time. The ability to not only put the right message in front of the right person is key, but also being able to do it at the right time too. Is hugely, hugely important, especially if we're looking at big fundraising days where we're hoping to get 2, maybe 3 emails out. If you have an 8-hour lag between start and finish, you're going to find yourself in a situation that is bad for your bottom line, but ultimately what's worse is that it's bad for the donor at the end of this. Now, not everybody can get into the complexity of conditional content, but I will make one plea. Throughout the year, but also through end of year, more importantly, we should at least be building in HPCs or highest previous contribution formulas into your fundraising emails. If not, you're leaving money on the table in 2 ways. If you're asking your $1,000 donor for $10, they may just give you $10. But if you're asking your $10 donor for $1,000, they're probably going to go play on Facebook. So you're losing money in each of those different situations. And ultimately, we want to get to a point where the content and the emails and websites and retargeting campaigns that come together into a program at year end, but also throughout the year, are really reflective of that donor's desires and needs from organizations like Heifer or Oxfam or whoever. But it really needs to be about them, not us. And in doing so, you can build out these long-term relationships that will ultimately bring you more people, more money. And by doing it through engagement, you get people to give in the good times and bad too.
Great. Okay, so we've learned a lot today, a lot of incredible creative ideas, but also very tactical and strategic guides. So I wanted to just close with a couple of insights on how to think about this internally, as I know that it takes a lot of coordination across multiple teams to execute a program like this, but also externally for our precious donors. So for all our programs, a key part of successful donor engagement and retention is this internal alignment, but also the constant iteration of the external program. And here's a visualization that we often refer to, and it's a learning loop, one could say, but it shows how we think about campaigns and programs. Because the biggest part, in most cases, is often getting out of the way internally to ensure that you're putting the donor first. So first, it's critical to ensure that there's integration of strategy and goals across departments, not just digital, and the general direction of creative. This will help inform how you use all the important tools and lessons that we learned today, but also will ensure that it's aligning to the overall goals. Second, you're going to want to ensure strategically, but also that you're working to unite the donor experience and audience lessons across all channels, offline as well, which we know is easier said than done. But for any campaign, you need to know who you're speaking to and ideally what their experience is across the organization so you can be smart about your targeting, but also the benchmarks of success and their ongoing experience. So this is where you stop listening to your gut, even if you're British strategist here at Blue State, and you have to start paying attention to what the data and donors are responding to and saying based on your understanding of their experience. Last, and then you guessed it, use this information to ensure that the program or campaign is evolving based on what you're learning and seeing. So it's a constant loop that keeps us running the best, most optimized, and most engaging programs for our donors. It's not fun stuff for fun stuff's sake. It's actually building on these lessons and creating the best possible experience. So to conclude very quickly, because I know we're almost out of time, I want to allow some time for questions. If you do not do anything, just take this away from you as you head into year end. First, give donors what they want. Make your donor experience responsive and enjoyable. They're more than an AM, they're your friends. Second, make it fun, unique, and personal. Don't every other organization or shopping site or quote-unquote viral piece of content that's in people's news feeds and inboxes. So be yourself, unique, and give them a memorable experience that keeps them organized. Wherever you can, ensure that you're getting the right content to the right people at the right time using the tools, whatever they may be, at your disposal. So I know we covered a lot, and as I said, you have my email address for more questions. But why don't we start with a question about how our team calculates the optimal ask based on previous donations?
Great question again. The easy answer is we test out as many different variations of previous asks until we find the one that generates the most gifts and the most revenue. To give a clue into how deep we get on these stuff, currently for a bunch of clients, we're seeing that that around 60 to 70% of a donor's second highest previous contribution is doing really, really well for a bunch of people. But again, you need to test that on your own list to figure out if that's true or not, or whether there's extra dollars based on that.
Great. All right. Well, we're going to let you go a minute early. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope that you're walking away with some great lessons and insights. And as I mentioned, we'll be following up with a recording and the deck. And please feel free to let me know if you have any questions. And we hope to see you again soon. Thank you. And thanks, Cheryl.
My pleasure. One last thing. Action Sprout is working with Facebook. For the first time, Facebook is actually giving nonprofits the chance to do free ads for end-of-year giving. You can, if you get approved, you get $1,500 in free ads, and that's a big deal. You know, we want folks to show interest in the program so that Facebook actually finally sets up a Google Grants style program for nonprofits. So if you just go over to actionsprout.com, you should see more information about that.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.